recently revealed in a article published by the Intercept that the Bloomberg campaign was using prison labor. So the Intercept report details how the Bloomberg campaign, contracted with this call center company in New Jersey called Procom. Procom contracts with at least two prisons in Oklahoma, and at least one of those was being used by the Bloomberg campaign to make campaign calls. And then so these people that are incarcerated had to end the call by saying that they were paid by the Michael Bloomberg campaign to make those calls, but they did not have to and did not disclose that they were in fact in prison while making these calls. So the Michael Bloomberg and the campaign have said that they were unaware that Procom was using prison labor to, make these campaign calls. They said they were unaware of it until a reporter, I believe from the Intercept, called them to ask them about this. And then Bloomberg and his campaign said that this contract with Procom was canceled as soon as they found out that they were using prison labor. So obviously we might not ever know if the Bloomberg campaign did in fact know beforehand that Procom was contracting with, a prison to use prison labor to make these campaign calls on behalf of the Bloomberg campaign. So let's go off of the stance that maybe the Bloomberg campaign did not know that Procom was contracting, was using prison labor. So let's go from that stance. So if that is the case, it's still, very troubling and unacceptable that the campaign was either, unwilling to, engage in any type of due diligence to look into these companies that they are contracting with who would be making calls on behalf of the campaign. And obviously, they have the resources and wherewithal to conduct that type of research into these companies that they are contracting with, because the campaign is literally funded by a multi-billionaire in Michael Bloomberg. If they're really concerned about who was making calls on behalf of the campaign, they could have figured that out easily. A reporter from the Intercept was able to dig into the story, pretty easily. There's no reason why the Bloomberg campaign would not have been capable of the same. So either they were just completely unwilling to, engage in that type of due diligence that would have, led them, to conclude that they shouldn't have partnered with Procom in the first place, or they simply, were already aware of it and did not care because, the Bloomberg campaign is willing to do and say anything to get elected, and I wouldn't put it past them, honestly, that they were knowingly and willingly working with this company that was using prison labor to make calls on behalf of the Bloomberg campaign. So obviously very, very troubling that, Bloomberg and his campaign was contracting with this company that was using prison labor. Prison labor, just by itself is hugely exploitive and, troubling and unethical on, so many levels. So there's that problem for the Bloomberg campaign, kind of giving them another black eye, in my opinion. It also speaks to the lack of any real type of grassroots support or momentum that the campaign has, because they're having to contract with these shady companies like Procom in order to make campaign calls on behalf of the Bloomberg 2020 run, because there's no reason, unless really you are some type of billionaire or wealthy corporate elite, to support Bloomberg's candidacy, because I really think he's running because he sees Bernie as having a real shot of the nomination, and Bloomberg's taxes might go up a little bit under a Sanders administration, and he does not like that idea. So he's basically self-financing his campaign. His campaign has spent over, I believe it's over $100 million on TV ad buys, far surpassing even Tom Steyer, who I believe is also another billionaire in the campaign, who spent around, I think, $70 million. And then, as Bloomberg's dumped, this $100 million plus into TV ad buys, he's seen his, support go up. I think it's somewhere around 7%. I don't know if that's nationally or in some of the state polls, but his numbers have been creeping up steadily because he's basically been, blasting people's television screens with his, neoliberal status quo message, and, not really saying anything, just a lot of word salad, because he doesn't really stand for anything that's going to improve the lives of the working class in the United States and in any substantive way. He's just, running because he's a billionaire and he can self-finance his campaign. So that's why he's able to, have this huge platform and willing to engage in these, shady practices like huge amounts of TV ad buys that were financed, by himself. Obviously, a normal person would never even been able to, run one of those campaign ads because they're insanely expensive, and just the, hubris of somebody, like Michael Bloomberg, to, not even participate or want to participate in any of the Democratic debates. He's not participating in any of the primary states or caucuses, totally writing them off, and going to, I believe, focus all of his kind of energy and focus on the Super Tuesday states, and all because, he has this huge war chest that he can stick his hands into at any time, because he's a billionaire and he stands to protect the billionaire class, the oligarchic class, the status quo at any cost. And this story that was reported on by the Intercept of his campaign contracting with this company who uses prison labor is just another example of that. Michael Bloomberg has no real, connection to, let's say a person who may be, locked up for a drug offense or whatever it may be. He's, one of those wealthy elites who are so out of touch. They think they can say and do whatever they want, but they have so much money that they think they're able to buy the election. But as we've seen from, Bernie Sanders' campaign, it's, when a real populist from the left comes along who has this decades-long track record of standing up for and advocating for the working class, he's going to have a huge appeal. And Bernie Sanders' support is, very indicative of that. He has the most individual campaign donations in U.S. political history. It looks like he'll probably even hit 5 million individual donors pretty soon. He has, a record amount of volunteers and grassroots support. And, very much what his campaign represents is the not me, us ethos. As opposed to, Michael Bloomberg, who is running for president to boost his own ego as well as to, protect his bottom line. So, not surprising, but still very disturbing, because it's hugely exploitive to use prison labor in any capacity. And, I don't necessarily believe Michael Bloomberg and his campaign when they said they, used contracted prison labor, unknowingly. So those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear yours in the comment sections down below, and thank you for helping me get to 50 subscribers. I will be taking a polar plunge at some point this weekend, documenting it, and then sharing it with y'all. Peace and much love.